I offer a simple heuristic. I think if you want people to be engaged, I think there's four steps. I
Hmm.
think respect leads to trust, which leads to empowerment, which leads to engagement.
Hmm.
If you don't cover all those bases, you're never going to get to engagement. If there's a break in that chain,
Yeah.
you're not going to get there.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Yollab Central. Today, I have with me John. So, John, would you like to tell our audience why they should be excited about this conversation today?
Well, what I'd like to talk about, what I think is interesting, is this whole topic of employee engagement,
Uh-huh.
why it's important, why it matters, and most importantly, why I think so many organizations and so many leaders get it wrong, and where
Uh-huh.
the pitfalls are and how they might avoid those pitfalls.
Okay. Now, I've had a couple of more guests who've talked about employee engagement and a lot. Now, there's another different perspective that I want to bring in, right? Where the leadership in the organization, right? Chief executive officers. Now, I've heard that sometimes the chief executive officer is not necessarily just responding to investors, but the CEO is more like the chief people officer because he or she or they are the person who is leading the whole team, and they are basically taking care of the team rather than taking care of the company because yeah, the people are more with the company, right? So if you want to put some light on that, and there we can go from there.
Yeah, I think that might be even kind of a false distinction. I don't know how you take care of the company if you don't take care of the team.
Yeah,
It's whatever the company does is the result of what the people do.
that's right.
So those are those go together very closely. So I'm not saying that you're there to run a club, a social club. I'm
Uh-huh.
not saying you're there to just be a good guy or gal. But
Hmm.
what I am saying is that it's a very important part of any leader's job
Hmm.
to attend to what makes people tick.
Hmm.
And again, not to be a good guy or gal, but it's because it's what makes the business hum.
Yeah.
You know,
So there was this episode that I did quite a few some time ago about National Employee Month, right? Employee Welfare Month. So there's this thing that's celebrated in March, right? Where it came out that yeah, there was a lot of research going on about employee engagement, employee welfare, that happy employees means happy companies and stuff like that. So from there, that idea came out. Now when it comes to employee engagement in the generic sense, people talk about trying to do celebrations or doing some small event here and there. But I'm sure employee engagement is more than just trying to engage employees into family kind of feeling and putting them in that false sense of security that we are more than just a team, right? So, how do you put your this idea out?
I get, as you can tell, I was kind of shaking my head a little bit while you were saying
Yeah,
that. I get a little nervous when people approach it that way.
yeah,
The people began to get really excited about and pay attention to employee engagement roughly at the turn of the century,
yeah.
at the turn of the millennium.
Hmm.
Uh, Even not just a century, a whole millennium.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, when research done by Gallup and the Conference Board and others showed
Yeah.
a close correlation between high levels of employee engagement and things like profitability, productivity, employee retention rates.
Yeah.
Because it's very expensive to lose and then have to hire, and
That's right.
important institutional knowledge walks out the door when you lose employee. All those things.
Yeah.
Um, what what I think is a very common pitfall is that people think that to engage high levels of engagement means having events like the kind you were describing and
Yeah.
bringing people together for these celebrations and things.
Hmm.
But the engagement that was behind the research that got people excited about engagement had a
Hmm.
very specific definition. That engagement was defined as the extent to which people invest incremental effort and energy on the job.
Yeah.
Um, that's very different from bringing people together.
Yeah.
Bringing people together might result in that, but if you think that all you need to do is bring people together, you're
Yeah.
missing the boat. Can I give you an example? I was doing some work with a vice president of HR.
Mm-hmm.
We were actually working on a different topic, but she handed me a piece of paper. She said that she was having a offsite meeting for her management team the
Okay.
following week. So the paper she handed me was the agenda for that offsite meeting.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of this agenda? So I looked at it and I said, this looks perfectly reasonable. But I
Mm-hmm.
noticed that on Tuesday afternoon from day two, from 1 to 3 o'clock, it said breakout sessions. But that's
Right.
all it said. So I said, well, you're in breakouts. What are you doing during the breakouts? She
Yeah.
said, we don't know. I said, well, why are you doing them? She said, we don't know.
Okay.
And I said, if you don't know why you're doing them, then why are you doing them?
That's
She
right.
said, well, it's the engagement part of the meeting. And that to me kind of crystallized the problem.
Yeah.
She saw engagement as bringing people together and putting them in a room.
Mm-hmm.
That was engagement. I think properly understood, she should have viewed the whole 2 days as the opportunity to what do you need to do to create an environment within which people are more likely to invest incremental effort and energy.
Mm-hmm.
One tactic might be a breakout session, but the breakout session isn't engagement. And the way I describe it to people when I give talks on this or teach seminars on this,
Uh-huh.
I would say that engagement is not what happens in the conference room.
Mm-hmm.
Engagement is what happens in the heads and the hearts of the
Uh-huh.
people who inhabit the conference
Right.
rooms.
Right.
Engagement is not something that you do for an employee. It's not, I will engage you. It's,
Right.
I will create the environment within which you will become engaged.
Right.
But employee becomes engaged. You don't engage the employee.
Yeah.
That's a critical difference. And so I think the beginning of wisdom is understanding that distinction and understanding that the
Mm-hmm.
job of a leader is to create that environment. So now I'm being hyperbolic here when I say this. I'm exaggerating, but I would almost be inclined to say get rid of all of those celebrations and things and
Yeah.
focus on what do you need to do to create that environment. Because
Right.
I suspect that a lot of people who attend those celebrations are kind of rolling their eyes and thinking, oh God, it's March and here we go again. We're doing this again.
Yeah.
And they get cynical about it.
Of
And
course.
and much better to demonstrate the things you need to demonstrate to get them to be more engaged.
Mm-hmm.
I can talk a little bit about how you do that, but
Yeah.
anyway.
Okay. Now, since we're talking about this, right? I mean, based on my different experiences with different companies, I've seen companies do festival celebrations. I've seen companies bring in celebrities and do a corporate event, right? So that people come together, try to celebrate, have some fun, uh, get their juices down or something of that sort. Okay. And try to create an environment where people are able to let themselves free in the hope that they are creating the environment where people get engaged, right? But this idea that the employee will be engaged only outside of work hours, right? Where most of the engagement activities are usually scheduled where the employee is not working. So if you're getting what I mean, right? That it'll only be done in off hours or where somebody is not doing billable work or not in the middle of a meeting, something of that sort. So how can companies actually change this approach, right? Where even during a regular office day, the employee feels like, yeah, I should be putting in more effort.
Well, that's what I mean. That
Yeah.
not these it's not these special events
Yeah.
that are engagement. By the way, I if you have something truly to celebrate, then by all means celebrate.
That's right. That's
If you
right.
have accomplished something terrific, then by all means celebrate it and recogniz people and all that. But if you do it as a kind of going through the motion sort of thing, that's where it rings hollow and people
Uh-huh.
get a little cynical about it.
Uh-huh.
Uh, Another example I'll give you that it's in, I mean, my new book is called If Engagement is the What, Then Respect is the How. And one of the examples I give in my book is I show two pictures. And in one picture, you have people, six people, one person standing at a flip chart, three are sitting at a round table, two are standing up. There's sticky notes and colored dots and all those good things that we've all seen and used. And then the other picture, you see maybe a room with, say, 100 people sitting auditorium style, and in the front of the room is
Yeah.
somebody with a PowerPoint presentation, obviously making a presentation. And I would ask people, in what room are people more highly engaged?
Uh-huh.
And I asked that question hundreds of times to thousands of people over the years, and 98% of people would say, well, the room with the flip chart, they're more highly engaged.
Mm-hmm.
Very occasionally, someone would say, doesn't it depend? And that's actually the right answer.
Yes.
Because if the people in the room with the flip chart are working on something that's core to the business and in the mainstream of what they do, and they know based on past history that the management will listen to the recommendations and they will
Yeah.
be heard, then yeah, they're going to be jazzed. They're going to be engaged.
Yes.
If historically they say if what they're saying is, like I said a minute ago, didn't we just do this a couple of months ago and
Yeah.
nobody ever listens and this is a waste of time and sticky notes and God bless 3M, they're going to make money on this, but that's all. And I wish I had clicked on no when the invitation came out.
Right.
They're not going to be engaged. In fact, they might become more disengaged because they
Right.
become more cynical. Look in the other picture where there's the person giving the presentation in
Yeah.
auditorium style. If the speaker is talking about something that is not particularly germane to the people in the room, and he's not a particularly skillful speaker, then yeah, they're probably not going to be engaged. But if it is germane to the people, and maybe he's talking about things in new and interesting ways, and he's
Mm-hmm.
skillful enough to hold the
Yeah.
attention
Mm-hmm.
of a room full of people sitting in uncomfortable molded plastic chairs,
Yeah.
then they're going to be engaged.
Got
So it depends on what's happening, and
it.
and and that's the sort of thing that makes a difference. Again, engagement is what happens in the room, in the heads of the people, not
Yes.
not not what happens in the room itself. And I think it has everything in the world. I offer a simple heuristic. I think if you want people to be engaged, I think there's four steps. I
Mm-hmm.
think respect leads to trust, which leads to empowerment, which leads to engagement.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't cover all those bases, you're never going to get to engagement. If there's a break in that chain,
Yeah.
you're not going to get there. Empowerment is another one we hear about all the time.
Yeah.
And I was sitting in a conference room in an auditorium where the results of a very large company, they were giving the results of a survey they had done of their employees,
Mm-hmm.
in which they had asked to the degree to which their employees felt empowered.
Yeah.
And the results, they were very disappointed in the results.
Okay.
So the president of the company got up, and this was a multi-billion-dollar company. It's a big company. And there were 120 or so people. his direct reports and their direct reports. So in a multi-billion dollar company, those are high level people. So this was a high level meeting. President got up and he was a smart guy, well-intentioned guy. He wasn't a nitwit. You
Yeah.
know, he said, I need you all to understand that you are empowered. And I need you to go back and make sure your people understand that they are empowered.
Mhm.
And I was sitting in the back of the room, and I could see one of his vice presidents who was sitting in the front. He started to put his hand up, and then he pulled it down. And then there was a break. There was a coffee break. After that session, there was a break. So I made a beeline toward that guy, and
Yeah.
I said, "You wanted to say something." When he said, "Go back and tell your people they're empowered."
Yeah.
And yeah, I did. I said, "What was it you wanted to say?" He said, "What I wanted to say was we could tell people they're empowered until we're blue in the face, but if they don't feel empowered, they're not empowered."
That's right.
I said, "Why didn't you say it?" And he said, "Oh no, too risky." And I thought, think of the irony of that.
Yeah, that's right.
Feel empowered to tell his boss
Yeah.
his approach to empowerment was wrong.
Uh-huh.
So, and if you can't get past that, you're never going to get to engagement.
That's right. That's right.
You know, so the definition of empowerment that I offer is a feeling of safety while exercising judgment on the
Mhm.
job. He didn't feel
Yeah.
safe
Of course. Yeah.
do what
That's
he wanted to do.
hmm
And again, and all of that's inside of him. That's the boss. You don't get to bestow empowerment. You don't say you are empowered, like knighting someone.
Yeah, that's right.
They feel it or they don't, just as though they feel engaged or they don't.
Mhm. Yeah,
So
that's the irony, right? The CEO or the MD will just go out and say, you are empowered employees. You should feel empowered. But if somebody tries to think about saying something and then feel that no, this is too risky, which means basically that they're not empowered enough to even say to the CEO's face. But then that's just how things are in some companies, right? And it's just the I don't know that's how some people like to feel as leaders, right? They want to say it out loud on their employees' faces that you are empowered, but the employee itself feels that no, I can't say anything to their face because they might get offended or they might act adversely or something of that sort.
right, they think back if it was a CEO or president or an MD. What happened last time somebody tried something like this?
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna put myself out there. A
Yeah.
feeling of safety. And
Yes.
and these things matter. And those are four simple concepts: respect, trust, empowerment, engagement. The concepts are simple, but I think what happens, look, all of us, I'm an engineer, but my training was as an engineer.
hmm
So if you had told me, good Lord, 50 years ago when I was in college,
Yeah.
that I would wind up in my career doing the kind of work I'm now doing,
Yeah.
talking about the thing I have told you, you were nuts.
hmm
But it makes, because I would have said, no, I like to deal in logic. Well, it's perfectly
Perfectly
logical
logical.
for
Yes.
me to
Uh-huh.
recognize that people are doing things that
Without
aren't getting results and continue to do them. And
right.
why is that? And trying
Yeah.
to point out, here's where the flaws in engineering, the first thing you're taught is you need to come up with the correct problem statement.
Yes.
If you don't have the correct problem statement, you're not going to solve the problem you want to solve.
hmm
And if your problem statement is for engagement, I need to put people in a room together. Well, you can solve that problem, but that's not going to get them engaged.
That's right.
Engagement means this sense, this more internalized thing. Similarly with empowerment,
Uh-huh.
if you view the problem statement as I need to get up on a stage and tell people they're empowered, that's an easy problem to solve.
Yeah.
but the problem goes deeper if there's a history in your company
Mhm.
of CEOs and presidents and MDs and even lower level managers creating an environment within which people are nervous about raising anything that they're afraid might cause any kind of conflict.
That's right.
So
Okay. Now, as you mentioned, that the company had done a survey, right? Now, a lot of companies go out and do, there are two types of surveys that they do. One is with details, right? You write your name and you write your employee code, and then you answer a set of questions. And then the other ones are, which are seemingly anonymous, right? Which are said to be anonymous. Obviously, there is this whole distrust in the system, right? That even though you're filling an anonymous survey, there would be some way that somebody will know.
yeah,
Somebody will know that it was you who wrote this answer, right? Now, if you had to go out and help a company, right, to solve this very specific problem that people are not even willing to fill an anonymous survey with full trust. Okay, it usually boils down to the same thing, right? It's not getting respect and not getting trust built into the system. But still, they want to call it an anonymous survey. Why are the employees not trusting it again?
if you have if your problem is that your employees don't even trust that when you say it's an anonymous survey, that it's truly anonymous, you've got real problems.
Yeah.
I mean, just a very quick digression. I I play my hobby is I play golf.
Okay.
My golf course is about 2 miles from where I live.
Mhm.
And one of the things I do for my club is I run our surveys.
Okay.
I always make a point of saying this isn't fully anonymous.
Hmm.
And people always will say, "Well, is it really anonymous?" I say, "Yeah, it is. It is." Oh, couldn't you go back and suss out who it is? I said, well, if we wanted to spend a lot of time and a lot of money, we could, but we don't. Honest, there wouldn't be. Honest, it's anonymous, you know.
Yeah.
And this is just a trivial golf course survey.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so yeah, you got real problems. So now I would say you got to really get back to basics and say what is going on here. Now I do think you have issues that get back into respect and trust issues,
Hmm.
and might need to start, uh, uh, you know, opening the hood and really digging into the engine and seeing what's going on. The way to get at that, and this is hard to do too, because now if you say, well, let's have focus group, well, people aren't gonna, they're gonna be skeptical of that.
Hmm.
And but uh, those things don't happen overnight. Those happen over years of behaviors, and the cynicism and the skepticism builds up over years. The definition of respect that I offer, and I say to people when they ask me, all right, if I'm starting now and I want to drive for higher levels of engagement, where should I start? I
Yeah.
say, if I didn't know anything else about your organization, anything else about you, anything about your industry, the highest leverage point to start is start manifesting respect in all things you do at all times. Particularly if you're the CEO or MD or whoever,
Hmm.
uh, because people pay attention to that stuff.
That's right.
People will notice that you are respecting other people, and they will notice if you're not,
That's
and
right.
they will mirror that.
Yes.
And the definition of respect that I offer in my book
Hmm.
is uh, giving due consideration to the other.
Yeah. That's
It,
it. Yeah.
simply, did you stop to think about? Did you consider how what you said or didn't say, or did or didn't do, affected the other?
Hmm.
And I put the word do, D-U-E, in there again, to emphasize that I'm not talking about throwing rose petals in people's paths. It's a
Yeah.
business. And there are going to be times when you may need to be abrupt and you may need to even put the hammer down. Okay,
Okay.
understood. But you can do an awful lot of damage by just if if you if you're having a bad day
Yeah.
and you're frustrated and you're the boss and something comes up, you can do a lot of damage by with a comment or an email that isn't thought through,
Yeah, that's right.
and you can undo a lot of good work. And what I tell people is take a breath, take a beat, think, give, consider it, consider how what you're about to say
Hmm.
will affect others. And it's amazing how effective the effects of that can be. Um,
Right.
that just I had an example. It's also in my book where an employee was responding to a request from a boss. The boss had asked for some information, and so the employee, in good faith, sent an email with some attachments. Said, "Here you go. I think this is what you need." And the boss's response was, "Not what I was looking for." In bold-faced and italics with like four exclamation points.
Okay.
And that's all it said.
Hmm.
The employee doesn't give you much to go on at that point. What do I do here? Now, if you're lucky enough to happen to have a good working relationship with the boss, you might be able to go to their office and say, "Were you having a bad day? What was it?" And the boss might say, "Yeah, yeah, I'm sorry. Let me explain." That would be a good outcome.
Yeah.
But if you
You'd be lucky, right?
have Yeah, but if you didn't have that kind of relationship, you might say, I clear the decks for the rest of the afternoon. I got to figure this out. Cancel my staff meeting,
Uh-huh.
with that affects all the people whose days that they had planned to come to your staff meeting,
Hmm.
which affects the people with whom they had planned to meet, and it ripples down through the organization because the boss just hadn't taken a moment to say, not what I was looking for. It turned out, really, he should have said, not what I was looking for. I thought we said we were going to include thus and such information from
Hmm.
thus and such a vendor.
Right.
And had he only said that,
Would have made it
the
so simple, right?
the employee would, oh, yeah, all right, yeah, easy. I got that. And one more email and we've been done.
That's right.
But instead, it set up this ripple effect. So giving due he was disrespectful.
Hmm.
And again, this isn't there's a tremendous cost to the business
Yes.
with that kind of behavior.
Yes.
And that erodes trust. Trust is the next step. Trust is confident expectation. Well, can I expect that I will be treated
Y-
fairly?
Yeah.
Well, not if every time I mess up, I'm just going to get this kind of flaming email,
Hmm.
or I'm going to get my face ripped off.
Hmm.
Or if I'm afraid to raise my hand in a meeting because I don't know what the boss is going to say.
Yeah.
So they all go together. Respect, it starts with respect because the other important part about respect, I should add, is that respect respect, trust, empowerment, engagement. Respect is the one thing that I, everybody in the company has complete control over.
That's right. Yes.
Doesn't cost, you don't need a budget, you don't need permission. You
Correct.
just need to decide to do it. And
Yes.
it's simple, it's simultaneously simple and difficult. It's a
Uh-huh.
simple concept, but it's difficult to do every day because we are pulled in 13 different directions and we do get stressed and we may be having a bad day. So I don't mean to
Mhm.
understate the difficulty of this, but you got a better shot at it if you get used to the idea of, let me take a beat. Did I stop and think about how what I'm about to say or not say or
Yeah.
do or not do is going to affect others? And that ripples through, excuse me, that ripples through, and people pay attention to that stuff. They do.
Yes, definitely. I mean, when it comes to from the lower rung to the top rung, if there's something that people pay attention to, it is respect that is there present in the system. And that is, as you mentioned, right? And I definitely agree that it's respect, trust, empowerment, and then finally you get to engagement where people feel that, yeah, they can now put in that extra effort. Thank you so much, John. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Yollab Central. It's been an amazing conversation getting down to the basics of what engagement should actually mean for a company and then how the company can flip the script and have more engaged employees. Obviously, we didn't get into the how itself, but if we can understand the why, then obviously how is a natural next step, right? So
The first how is manifest respect. Start there.
thank you so much. Thanks once again. Before we close, I'm sorry for not asking earlier. How can people get in touch with you and know more about you?
The best bet would be to go to my website. Can you put this in the show notes? Will there be show notes that go with this? Or
Yes, yes, yes.
it's my website is johnguaspari.com. My name, all one word, without the space between the N and the G, johnguaspari.com. Um, there you'll find links to my books, uh, especially my new one, which is If Engagement is the What, then Respect is the How. Um, there are seven others, but they're older. Um, I've written over the years hundreds of articles. There aren't hundreds of articles on the website, but there's a good cross section of them.
Mhm.
And there's also an email address that people can use to contact me.
Okay. Thank you so much, John. Thank you so much for sharing all your knowledge and information with our audience. To the audience who's been watching and listening intently, if you liked what we talked about, do leave a like. The comment section is open for questions, perspectives, suggestions, or your twist to what we talked about. And yeah, don't forget to subscribe before you close the window itself. Thank you so much for joining in. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.